Okay, this is Kurt Johnson Savage again. As you know, I posted a video last Friday on my way home from the gym in Chicago, out to the suburbs. And right now I'm in downtown Chicago, a week later. Just got done with the gym and went to Uno's for a nice deep dish pizza. So the gym ran long today. I was there for like an extra hour. So as you can see, it's already dark out. I'm making my way home. Just got done with the pizza. So last week I talked about the rape cover-ups at North Central College in Naperville, Illinois. You can see that on my YouTube, the previous video. So tonight, you know, we got a lot of crazy things going on with President Trump testing positive for COVID, right? So that's kind of like a spooky thing. It's October 2020. Halloween's coming up. So I want to tell you a little story about one thing that happened when I was in custody for the murder conviction. And that was a long time ago. It was 1993 when a guy attacked me and I shot him in self-defense. I had a legal gun on me, thank God. I was able to protect myself. But I was immediately arrested for murder, and eventually, as you know, if you look at my website, I was convicted of murder, and I did a long time in prison, decades. So this story is called The Story of Punkin Head, in keeping with the Halloween theme. So I was taken into custody after the shooting. The guy that I shot, he died, dead on arrival at the hospital after he attacked me. So this was October of 93, actually, October 25th, 1993. So it happened in Joliet, Illinois, and that is in Will County, Illinois. Joliet's kind of an industrial town, I guess you would say. I'm not sure, maybe fourth in population in Illinois. And that's where the ex-girlfriend lived, the one that encouraged her new boyfriend to attack me and try to kill me. So that's where the shooting took place. So I was taken into custody and I was put in the Will County Jail. And at the time, that held about 400 people. And it had these things called pods, P-O-D-S. Kind of like a cell block, but they called them pods for whatever reason. They were octagon shaped. 2 levels, if you can imagine this, if I can explain it correctly, and kind of like an octagon with cells all around the outer perimeter on the first floor and the second floor. So if I remember correctly, there was 52 cells altogether, maybe 25 on the bottom, 25 on the top. So you got 50 guys in there unless it's crowded, and then the cells will be doubled up, so that will be about 110 people, give or take. So I had been there, I don't know, probably a couple months, and I was in what was called like the honors pod or whatever for the people who know how to behave, I guess. So that was called a pod. All right, so when you're in intake, you're in this horrible cell by yourself or maybe with some other people, depending on how crowded it is when you first get there. And then you go to the intake pod, and then if you behave normally, which is rare, trust me, you go to A pod, the honors pod where I was at. So it's single cells, that was nice. You didn't have a roommate, so you can sleep at night, you know, you can kind of kick back a little bit. So they have a day room in the center of the octagon shaped pod, and in the front of it, on one side of the octagon, is a desk with an officer or two. And then there's a door behind him to kind of an entryway, a long hallway with another door. Then you go out to another hallway, and there's a couple more locked doors before you would ever get out of there. And these doors are very thick. They're like 2-inch thick solid steel, and they've got layers on them, so you're not getting through there. There was glass that is actually breakable. You can kick through that if you want to, but there's guards right there and there's cameras everywhere. So if there's any kind of disturbance or everything, about 10 or 12 guards will come running down the hall from the control center or various parts of the jail once the alert is sounded, and they're going to tackle you. So, or if there's a fight, you know, they call the the emergency squad. So anyway, we're in a pod one day, and there's a day room with carpeting, and there's little round tables, like card tables kind of, and maybe 6 people could sit at these tables. So you would eat at these tables. They would pass out the food, and there's plastic chairs. So there's nothing really you could smash somebody's head open with. You know, the tables are too big to pick up. The chairs are just plastic. There's really nothing loose except books, maybe. There's a little book cart. And then there's a TV. There's 2 TVs in each pod. So we've got the day room with the carpeting, and there's a TV at each end of the day room, and the prisoners can watch TV during the day when you're out of your cells. You're out of your cell maybe 6 hours a day. Okay, so some of these people just really don't know how to drive. So hopefully I won't have an accident during this video. So, because I'm headed out of Chicago to the suburbs right now. Okay, so anyway, okay, so the TVs are on, and you can sit in one of these chairs and watch TV if you want. And you're watching, you know, I didn't really watch TV when I was out. You know, I was working full-time, going to school, you know, social life. I didn't really watch TV very much at this point in my life when this happened. But when you're in the jail, you know, everything just comes to a stop. Your life, everything in it, just comes to a dead stop. I had no bond on the murder case, so there wasn't even a chance of bonding out. You know, I was hoping to get $1 million bond. You can post 100,000. Maybe my family could do that, bond out, but there was no bond. Partially because people were lying about me, and there was literally, this is all in my book, there was literally fake evidence presented by the prosecutor at my bond hearing. I don't know if she knew it was fake. It was a female prosecutor, but it was just like the flimsiest, to her it should have been the flimsiest evidence, but it turned out it was actually fake evidence. That's a long story, it's in my book. So the judge said no bond, because I was too dangerous based on this fake evidence. So, okay, so I'm sitting in the pod, I'm watching TV, probably like Lifetime, okay, something I would never watch, you know, in real life, but in the jail and in prison later, hey, you need entertainment, you need to keep your mind active. So I'm watching this movie on Lifetime with another guy who was kind of like a buddy of mine in the jail. And because he had been there 2 years already when I got there. He had a string of about 50 armed robberies to support his drug habit. And so they were trying to negotiate. It was in multiple counties, and he was trying to get the best deal he could. You know, there was no way he was going to beat these cases. I think they had him on camera and everything, and he got picked up by the cops during a robbery, I believe. So, okay, so we're sitting there watching TV, and it's getting to the end of this movie, and we're very interested in it. There's absolutely nothing else in your life that's going on that's interesting. So we're watching this movie on Lifetime, and there's this guy named Punkin Head, who was a black guy, and he was short. He was about, I'm going to say 5'5", maybe 5'6", probably 5'5", and his nickname was Punkin Head. And the reason they called him that was because he had an unusually large head for his body size. It was probably a bit larger than anybody else's, like an average person's head, but it looked even bigger because it's on him. So his friends, you know, whatever, I don't think he was in a gang, but anybody who knew him, he was known around Joliet as Punkin Head, because most of the people in the jail know each other. They're either like part of the drug culture, gang culture, or just general ne'er-do-wells, I guess you would call them. So most people in the jail know each other from out on the streets. So everybody knew this guy Punkin Head. Okay, so Punkin Head is talking to someone about something about 20 feet away from where me and this guy are watching TV. And he's getting really loud, okay? And now I can't hear what's on the TV. So I was never in a great mood while I was in prison. You know, I felt like, or in jail, I mean. The whole thing was bullshit. The guy attacked me. It was self-defense, but here I am in this horrible place. I've never spent the night in jail before. And, you know, so he's talking really loud. So I say, you know, I probably wouldn't do this today. Depends on the situation. So I yell over to the guy, hey, why don't you shut the fuck up? I'm trying to watch this movie, right? Well, Punkin Head gets insulted by this, okay? So he starts mouthing off, you know, telling me to get fucked and everything, right? And now he wants to fight. Okay, well, the thing about this jail, Will County Jail at the time in 1993, they had an old jail, and that was basically kind of like a gladiator place. There were all kinds of fights, from what I heard, stabbings, all kinds of shit. This jail is much more relaxed, and it's less density of the inmate population. And like I said, I'm in the honors dorm, so, or the honors pod, whatever you want to call it. So there's not really too many problems, or occasional fight, very rare. And you don't want to fight this guy because, okay, if I get in a fight in the jail at this point, this could hurt my chances for being successful at trial, because if I get in a fight, I'm going to segregation in the jail. The access to my attorney, which is already incredibly limited when you're in jail like that. It's the guards will fuck with the lawyers all the time. They won't call me to the visiting room. They'll let the lawyer sit there for 30 minutes before they even call me. No lawyer wants to go to the jail to talk to his client because it's a giant pain in the ass. So you want things to go as smooth as possible. You don't want to get in any fights. You know, I could probably easily kick this dude's ass, but you don't want to do that at this point. Now, in prison, totally different situation. But we're in this day camp jail. It's not like Cook County Jail or anything. You know, then you would have to fight immediately just to protect your reputation and to protect yourself in the future. Because when you're in a hardcore environment like prison, real prison, or Cook County Jail, somebody says some shit to you, you better fuck them up immediately, because if you don't, then you're just going to become a victim and people are going to start fucking with you all the time. So you got to lay down the law immediately. But not here. This is a day camp, you know, Will County Jail 93 honors pod. So I don't want to fight this motherfucker. So he gets his mouth off. I tell him to fuck off. And so what I do is I ask the guard for permission to use the phone. And he nods, yeah, go ahead and use the phone, because the phone is in a restricted area. So you walk over to the phone and no one else is allowed by the phones unless they have permission. So I'm removing myself from the situation of arguing with Punkin Head, right? And I make a call my parents, whatever. And Punkin Head is standing on the edge of this restricted area and he's still mouthing off, right? So I said, dude, just shut the fuck up. I said, now, this was not a politically correct thing for me to say, what I'm about to tell you, at all. But you got to understand that you're in jail with a bunch of scumbags. Not everybody, you know, some people are there for the DUIs, whatever. But it's just a bad place to be. And you say and do things that you wouldn't do in normal life. So I tell Punkin Head, shut the fuck up. He's still mouthing off while I'm trying to get on the phone, right? I said, shut the fuck up. I said, I can't remember exactly. I said something like, you've got AIDS, you're gonna die anyway, just shut the fuck up. Okay, so like insulting the guy, right? And, you know, not that I don't have great sympathy for anybody who contracts HIV or anything like that. I do. You just gotta remember now, this is jail, and, you know, you gotta have a certain armor or barrier or way that people are gonna look at you. So you can't say, oh yeah, I'm sympathetic about it. No, fuck all that. You can't do any of that shit. I tell the guy, fuck off, you're gonna die anyway, dude. Get the fuck out. So he gets really pissed off, but he can't really do anything because, again, you don't want to break the rules. He doesn't want to break the rules. He could easily just lunge at me from where he's at, but he's not supposed to be in the restricted area, so he doesn't go there. All right, so that's the end of it. But it's not the end of the Punkin Head story, but it's just the end of what happened that day. So the next thing that happens is, about 2 weeks later, Punkin Head resolves his case or he bonds out. I don't even know which. Somehow he gets out of the jail. You know, maybe had like a theft, I think, something like, it was something minor, maybe even a misdemeanor. And for whatever reason, he gets out of the jail about 2 weeks later. Okay, so 2 weeks after that, I hear through the grapevine, Punkin Head is dead. What happened was he contracted with someone else in Joliet to work on their car. He was going to repair their car for them, and he was going to charge $65. So when it came time to give the customer the car back, this was like at his house. Okay, he's not like a real mechanic or anything, as far as I know. He's just working out of his house. So the guy comes to get the car, and there's some kind of dispute about the money, all right, the $65. So from what I was told, and by several people, the customer was pissed off, Punkin Head's pissed off, and Punkin Head has a combination wrench in his hand, and he raises it over his head, and he threatens the customer about the $65 dispute. At which point, the customer, another citizen of Joliet, picks up a brick and smashes Punkin Head in the noggin. All right? Punkin Head falls to the ground. This guy doesn't stop. He caves in Punkin Head's skull with the brick over and over again. Punkin Head is beyond dead at this point. His skull is caved in. All right, so that's how Punkin Head died, but not the end of the story. So, and you have to have like what they call a gallows sense of humor. You know, the gallows where they used to hang people, because you see death on a regular basis when you're in prison and jail. I mean, people are having heart attacks, people are dying of drug overdoses, people are getting stabbed to death, people are getting their skulls caved in, whatever. So, you know, to maintain your sanity, you kind of have to look at it with perspective. So, okay, so a few days after Punkin Head is killed, the guy that killed him comes into the jail. All right, and at this point, I don't remember exactly how, but I was back in the intake pod because I might have gone to segregation or there was some type of move or something, and then you have to start over basically. So I was not in the honors pod. I don't really remember. I think I was back in the intake pod because you kind of like a revolving door, circular thing going on there. So for whatever reason, I'm in this pod, and the guy who killed Punkin Head comes in, and I see this guy. Okay, and I know, you know, from everybody, the grapevine, everybody knows this is the guy that killed Punkin Head. Okay, this dude is not very tall either. He's probably like 5'7", but he is a beast, all right? He is swole. He's got muscles on top of muscles, and he doesn't look like a nice guy, right? So I have the opportunity, just one day we're near each other in the jail, and I talked to him a little bit. And, you know, hey, what's up? And he doesn't know that I had this disagreement with Punkin Head in the past, but, you know, we share a few words or whatever, and, you know, he's definitely the guy who killed Punkin Head. Okay, so we, then, like, 2 years later, after I go to trial, I lose, unfortunately. I'm convicted of murder, wrongly convicted, unjustly convicted. I go to Stateville Prison. Well, lo and behold, I can't even remember this guy's name. The same guy, the guy that killed Punkin Head, comes into Stateville, and he is on he's in the same building that I'm in. I see the guy. I go, hey, I remember you from Will County Jail. He's like, hey, yeah, man, what's up? So we start talking, and he tells me the story, tells me about his case, about the murder case where he killed Punkin Head. And what happened was he was in a car with a girl, and they pulled up, and then they were gonna, you know, pay Punkin Head and pick up the car, right? But Punkin Head started arguing. Oh, here we go. Look at this motherfucker. And so he started arguing with Punkin Head, and he said that the girl could have testified about Punkin Head raising this combination wrench in a threatening manner, except that she was high on crack cocaine, and there was like a lot of smoke or whatever in the car, and she didn't see shit. She was high. I guess she did testify, but, you know, there wasn't much substance to her testimony, I guess, or her statement to the cops, whichever. She was high on crack, and I'm guessing it'd be impossible for this guy that did the killing not to have been somewhat high on crack too. That would be my supposition, right? She's high on crack. You're going to tell me he didn't have any of it? So he was probably high on crack too. So he said Punkin Head threatened him, and there were these bricks that were along the side of the driveway, kind of like to frame the driveway, and they were somewhat loose. So he picked one up, and, you know, he just smashed Punkin Head's skull in. And he didn't even really show like any, not that he regretted or anything. He just felt like, hey, the guy threatened me with a wrench. You know, I smashed his skull in. He didn't really like have too much consideration about what happened. So that's my radar detector. So okay, so that's how it went down. And then he got 57 years for murder at 50%, so that'd be 25 and some change. At that time, murder was 20 to 60 at 50% in Illinois, so that means you do 50% of your sentence. So, oh, and I noticed too, while I was at Stateville, this guy, I'd see him on the yard working out. Like I said, this guy was a beast. He specialized in doing the bench press, and, you know, 300 and a quarter, you know, more, 400. This guy was a beast. Just kind of, you know, every time we go outside, he's on the bench. And, you know, I can just imagine the strength that this guy had. And, you know, when he took that brick, I mean, he just probably unleashed on this guy. And, you know, it's a bad situation. But that's what happened. So that was the first time that something called the Savage Curse occurred. Because, you know, I got the name Savage from the outlaw bikers at Stateville Prison. Hell's Angels and a couple members of other clubs, they decided to call me Savage. That was my biker nickname because I hung out with the bikers. Like I said, I never joined them. You know, if you watch the other video. And the videos are going like in sequential order as far as information. So like I said last time, I didn't join the bikers. I just hung out with them. Kind of a mutual respect because I stood on my own 2 feet in prison. So I was known as Savage in the Illinois prisons. And that's my nickname. And I was a biker in prison, basically. Didn't join, but just, you know, that was my mentality at the time, and that's what I was, if you want. Because you classify people in prison into different categories. Got gangster disciples, Latin kings, neutrons. Those are people that are neutral, which I was a neutron. But at the same time, I hung out with the bikers, so I was a biker. Yeah, so I just watched this guy bench press, and I lost my train of thought now. And very, very strong. And, oh, the Savage Curse, right. So, several times, and maybe I'll tell you more about this in future videos, I've had it happen where somebody is being a real pain in the balls to me. And they may threaten me, they may do something, they may do some shit behind my back. You know, usually somewhat serious shit. And then, lo and behold, something horrible happens to them. Look at that truck there. Did you see that shit the guy pulled in? You know, I have a CDL, by the way. And I hope I know how to, I think I know how to drive. And it's just crazy. The biggest thing to me when you're driving, avoid getting hit by an asshole. Okay, so anyway, the Savage Curse is when somebody fucks with me and then they end up getting fucked up or killed. Not that I have anything to do with it. But it's just basically the real reason is because they're such an asshole in general. They're an asshole to me. They're an asshole to everybody they meet. And eventually it catches up to them. And the nice thing about it is when somebody fucks with me, I don't have to do anything. They're eventually going to fuck themselves up. And that's kind of like the Savage Curse. You could say, like, I don't have good feelings about them. Like, you know, I put voodoo on them or whatever. I do mentally, like, man, I hope this motherfucker gets caught up with, but I don't do anything personally. But they're just such an asswipe that something does happen. People have been killed, set on fire, or whatever. I'll tell you more about that later, but I don't actually have anything to do with it. Like, obviously, Punkin Head, I was in custody, and I didn't even know this guy that killed him. He threatened me over the fucking TV, but he's such a prick in general life, he ended up getting his skull caved in. So that's what the Savage Curse is. So that's the first example of the Savage Curse happening. And that is the story of Punkin Head. So I think about that once in a while. I was talking to a friend of mine that I just met again after 30 years. My best friend in high school. We just had reacquainted ourselves with each other after 30 years last Saturday. And he, you know, we were talking about how prison was, and I told him the story of Punkin Head, and that's why I wanted to share it with you people. So check out my website, my books. Hopefully in a few months I have my first book out. And this is Kurt Johnson Savage. I'm out.